Welcome to episode 3 of One Way Sports. I, of course, am P-Way. Ladies and gentlemen, we have officially arrived at the first recap of the NFL season. So coming up on today's podcast, I'll go through all of the games that happened yesterday on Sunday. We're currently recording this during the Rams and Lions game, so I'll give you a reaction to that one later in the podcast. But we're going to go through every single game here. I'm going to give you a score for all of them, kind of what my takeaways were, some stats, different things like that. Obviously, it's week 1, so we're not going to overreact too much. We're gonna maybe just a little bit, but we'll save some of the overreactions maybe for later in the season as we get some more information on these teams. But that is what's coming up on today's podcast. So I'll record all of the early slate and afternoon slates. We'll go through those games as sections. And then I will toss it back to myself after this Rams and Lions game is over for that. And then maybe a little Monday Night Football preview for you on the way out. We'll get an update to P-Way's parlay as well. But that's what's coming up on today's podcast. So let's hop into things with the morning slate of games. Bills and Cardinals is our first game that we're going to go through today. I kind of ranked these as the best game, that like in order of the best games that I thought from those slots of games. So we're going to start with Bills and Cardinals. Bills win the opener 34-28. This is a heck of a game. Lots of offense, obviously with the score, as you can see. Kind of felt like a slow start for Josh Allen. Not kind of. It was a slow start for Josh Allen in the offense. They were down 10-0 to the Cardinals. Thought the Cardinals came out really well. I think they gave James Conner, the ball in the first 5 plays of the game. So they came out looking really good. Offense was humming. They were running the football. Kyler was looking really good. They go up 10-0. But then the Bills flip the switch. They get things going. Josh Allen threw passes to 9 different receivers today, so he was really spreading the football around. And we heard that conversation. Maybe it was just time for Diggs and the Bills to separate. It wasn't like a tumultuous relationship at the end of it. I just think it was time for both people to be in different situations. And as you can see, there wasn't as much pressure on Josh Allen to throw the ball to his number 1 target tonight. I know for a lot of the game, Dalton Kincaid didn't even have a catch, and a lot of us predicted that he might be the number 1 target going into this year. Shakir had a really nice game. Coleman caught a couple passes. Knox, of course. They used the running backs, James Cook, a lot. Allen finishes the game 18 of 23. 232 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and then 2 more rushing touchdowns on the ground. That I think it was his second rushing touchdown, the one where he hurdled the guy and then jumped in the end zone. I mean, how many quarterbacks in the NFL are making that play, let alone even thinking about making it? I think it's just one, and that's because Josh Allen not only has the physical tools to be able to take on linebackers consistently, but also the ability to hurdle dudes on his way to the end zone. He did have that one fumble early in the game. I believe that led to the Cardinals getting some points there, but he didn't. It wasn't sloppy. No punt interceptions, as I would call them, where he just hucks the ball 60 yards downfield on a third down. It looked like early he was trying to make a couple plays, but then really settled in and looked like the Josh Allen that we know him to be. 4 total touchdowns on the opener, just 1 turnover. Thought Josh Allen was really, really solid today. The Bills looked good, as I thought they would. Kyler, I thought played really, really good as well today. They were a little bit overmatched. Obviously, the Bills are expected to be a playoff team. I don't know if anybody is predicting that of the Cardinals this season. He goes 21 of 31, 162 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, and then 5 carries for 57 yards. We'll see this as a trend a little bit today. I'll talk about it as we get deeper into it. But a lot of guys, a lot of number of attempts, decent number of completions, but not a lot of yards. So I don't know if that was just a week 1 thing or if the defenses really were just trying to keep everything in front of them. But Kyler played okay today. I thought he looked pretty good. Their offense looked good early and then kind of stalled there late. Buffalo's defense played really solid during portions of that game as well. DJ Dallas of the Cardinals gets the first ever kickoff return touchdown of the new rules. That was really fun to watch. I thought overall, we'll just talk about the kickoff quickly here. I thought overall there was more returns today. There was more action. Obviously there was a decent amount of touchbacks yesterday as well. But I thought the new kickoff, as I predicted in the season preview, that we might see more action as we got to the regular season with the number 1 special teams and then the number 1 number one special teams in those top returners out there for all the teams. So really solid game for Bills and Cardinals. Bills kick a field goal there late to go up 6, and then the Cardinals just can't convert, and they end up kneeling that game out, and the Bills win the home opener and start 1-0. Obviously, in this division, as we're projecting it to be, we'll get to the Dolphins later, but they also won yesterday. The Jets play tonight, and then also, well, spoiler, but the Patriots won yesterday as well, as some of you guys know. So that division 3-0 heading into tonight's Monday Night Football game. Bills had to win that game. They did. They took care of business. They move on to week 2, 1-0. And that's your first recap from yesterday. Bills 34, Cardinals 28. Okay, second game from the morning slate that I really enjoyed. Bears and Titans. Bears 24, Titans 17. This is a tale of 2 games, in all honesty. Titans led 17-0. First 2 drives were punts, then they score 3 straight times to take that 17-0 lead. Titans looked good early. I had my written down in my notes, new skill play or new weapons combined with what we thought Levis would be. I think people forgot that 2 years ago, so not the year Levis was coming out, but the year before, he was projected to be maybe the top quarterback, but definitely a first-round pick because of the year he had at Kentucky. That last year at Kentucky, he doesn't have as much weapons. He slips to the second round. But I thought he played really well early in this game. You saw Pollard get in the action. You like to see the weapons of having Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins out there. So they led 17-0. But the game flipped on its head pretty quickly. Bears scored 24 unanswered in this game to win 24-17. They get a field goal right before the half, and I thought that might change the momentum a little bit. But then they punt coming out of the half, and then that's when the game turned because the Bears get a blocked punt. Jonathan Owens, Simone Biles' husband, gets the return touchdown. Heck of a way to introduce yourself to Chicago after that nonsense in the preseason when Simone wore his jacket that happened to have him when he played for the Packers on it. Hell of a way to introduce yourself to the city on the field, not just off the field. He gets a block return touchdown. And just like that, it's 17-10, and it's a brand new ball game. Bears get two field goals to start the fourth quarter, so now you're looking at a 17-16 game. We'll get to Caleb here in a second. I just wanted to get through the recap of the full game, and then they're up 17-16. The Titans have the ball in their own end. I think it was like 8 or 7 minutes left to play, and then Levis throws a really bad pick, in my opinion. That goes the other way. Tyreek Stevenson, game-winning pick 6, and that's your 24 unanswered points right there. And the Bears flipped the game on its head. The Bears had a really good defense at the end of last year. They didn't really show up early in this game, but then they carried them the rest of the way home. After those 3 scoring drives, that they hold the Titans scoreless, and they pick up 2 touchdowns if you consider the special teams as well. So Bears defense scores 14. And then the offense takes care of the rest with 3 field goals and a 2-point conversion. Man, that was fun by the Bears. It was during the witching hour, too, if you're a red zone fan, where you thought things could get weird, and then they do when he gets the pick 6. Really, really good team win for the Bears. But in terms of Caleb Williams, let's talk about Caleb Williams. He really struggled today, 14 of 29, 92 yards. That is not something that we had predicted, or at least I had predicted. I didn't know if he was gonna light it up and throw 3 touchdowns today, but I didn't think he was gonna go 14 completions for 92 yards. The offense in total only had 148 yards, so it didn't really feel like their offense as a whole was clicking really at all. But he is the first number 1 overall quarterback to win week 1 since 2002. And that was Derek Carr. So got to give credit where it's due. They win the game as a team. Don't know if any of it was because of Caleb, but hey, starting quarterback is the only stat where you get, blamed for wins and losses. They pick up the win. He starts his career 1-0. Will Levis, like I said, looked good early and then struggled late against the Bears defense. He finishes 19 of 32, 127 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Tony Pollard gets a touchdown. Their new weapons looked good, but like I said, after those 3 scoring drives, the Bears defense looked like a top 5 defense in the league, and that's what they finished as last season. So not as worried about Levis. He did make some mistakes here yesterday that I didn't love, but overall was a weird game. Neither quarterback played very well. Neither offense played very well. The defenses both show up. And the Bears start 1-0 in the Caleb Williams era. They cover as well. I think that was a 3.5-point spread, so they cover as well, which will make all Bears fans pretty pleased too. So they win the opener 24-17. Good for Eberflus, good for Poles. A lot of Ryan Poles, their GM. A lot of pressure when you're the Hard Knocks team to get a win week one because of all the attention that's been put on you. Some mistakes to clean up, some sloppy play to clean up for sure, but always better to be feeling those things when you're coming off a win. Let's go third game of the day, divisional game. Texans at Colts. 29-27 Texans win. This game was sick. I remember when Anthony Richardson and CJ Stroud were drafted last year, it became the conversation of, will they enter the conversation with Trevor Lawrence as the quarterbacks to compete with the Jaguars for this division moving forward? Stroud wins the division last year. They win a playoff game. You know the history there. And this one ends up 29-27. Typical divisional game, if you ask me. Gritty, tough nose, and down to the wire, which is exactly what it was. Anthony Richardson, I mentioned in the season preview, I didn't know if he was going to be able to throw the ball consistently enough. We'll get to the overall numbers here in a second. But in terms of big playability, I mean, he hits Alec Pierce, that crazy deep throw, 60-yard touchdown where he's kind of rolling out and just hucks the ball. And you can tell that's why people were so high on him, not just because of the running, but his ability to just flick the wrist and throw that ball 60 yards was nasty. They finally get that deep threat from Alec Pierce that they had drafted him for out of Cincinnati. So they started good. They started really good. Texans scored on 3 of their first drives of the game. It was a 12-7 game at half. They settled for 2 field goals. Stephon Diggs gets the only touchdown for the Texans of the first half. So there was already some bullshit on Twitter about Diggs arguing on the sideline. Like, I think we have to understand at this point that Diggs is a passionate player and he wants the football like any number one receiver did. They get him the ball later in the first half. He gets a touchdown. He ends up scoring again later, which we'll talk about here in a second. Blocked punt from the Colts leads to a Jonathan Taylor touchdown to put him right back in the game. I think that was right when the second half started. And then a crucial play in the game. It was 15-13. I think it was second and goal or maybe first and goal for the Texans. And Kenny Moore gets an interception of CJ Stroud, but he held on the play earlier. So it ends up coming back. And then Joe Mixon gets a touchdown on the very next play. Joe Mixon had a monster game. 30 carries for Joe Mixon today. 159 yards and a touchdown. Didn't expect them to use Joe Mixon like the workhorse he was today. But man, Joe Mixon looked really good. Still looks like he's got that burst in the step, can make people miss and can still be the workhorse back. Right after that, Richardson throws his second ridiculous bomb touchdown of the game, 54 yards to Ashton Doolin. And so the Colts made explosive plays today, but it was just the lack of consistency on their offense, because right after that, the Texans make the play of the game. 4th and goal, they get a touchdown to Diggs again in the corner of the end zone. I think they were only up 2 at that point. And then the Colts go back the other way, and Anthony Richardson scores himself on a 4th and goal. So 2 4th and goal touchdowns on back-to-back plays, but Texans end up getting the first down they need to run the clock out and win the game. Stroud finishes 24-32, 234 yards and 2 touchdowns. So really balanced game from the Texans, which is something they lacked last year. They couldn't run the ball the way they needed to last year, so it left a lot on Stroud, that's why it made it so impressive that he only threw 2 interceptions, but way more balanced today. They get 159 from Mixon, 234 from Stroud, really efficient, 2 touchdowns, both of them to Diggs. Nico Collins made a bunch of good plays today. Liked what I saw from the Texans, especially with the expectations coming off of last year's season to go in there on the road and get a divisional win in week 1. Anthony Richardson, just 9 of 19 for 212 yards, 2 touchdowns and an interception. I mean, crazy. They only had 9 completions for over 200 yards. Those 2, half of his yards came on those 2 touchdown throws. But he also goes 6 carries on the ground for 56 yards and a touchdown. This is what we expected. Anthony Richardson scores touchdowns. He looks like a freak when he runs the ball. Nobody can really stay with him. It's hard to tackle him, but he can also make people miss. It's just going to be about keeping him healthy. He took a couple hits today. And had that turnover, but 3 touchdowns. They lose to probably a better Texans team. It would have been nice to steal that one, especially early in the season. I think they stole a divisional win against the Texans early in the year last year. But Richardson gets healthy. He was banged up in every single game he played last year. Comes out of this one healthy. Scores 3 touchdowns. They almost beat the Texans. I think that's something to build on if you're a Colts fan headed into week 2. But if you're a Texas fan, hey, wins a win in week 1. Doesn't matter how it looks. A lot of field goals for Kaimi Fairbairn in that one. But Texans get the week 1 win at a final of 29-27. Let's talk Dolphins Jags now. 20-17 Dolphins win. I have no idea what happened to Tyreek Hill this morning. I woke up and it felt like the Scotty Scheffler morning all over again. Jeff Darlington's reporting just like he did it for the Scotty Scheffler situation. I see a photo that Tyreek's on the ground, like a block away from the stadium. Like, what is going on? It makes no sense. Like, how do the Miami police officers not know who the fuck Tyreek Hill is? I mean, he's Tyreek Hill. He's probably the most popular athlete in your city, not named Jimmy Butler or Bam Adebayo if they're big basketball fans, or maybe Cam Ward of the Miami quarterback. But how do you not know who Tyreek Hill is? He has to be the most popular player in your city. But regardless, Tyreek plays. Had a pretty solid game. 7 catches, 130 yards, and a touchdown, an 80-yard bomb. Just doing Tyreek Hill stuff. Jags offense, they were rolling early. And I mean rolling. They led 14-0. Travis Etienne and Brian Thomas Jr., their rookie, both had a touchdown. 17-7, they led at the half. So you're looking good on the road. In Miami, you obviously have to remember early in the season, Miami, has the best home field advantage in sports because they have shade cover on their sideline and their opponents never do. And I mean, if you don't know Florida Heat, I mean, it is disgusting out there. So, Jags are looking good on the road. And then the game flips late in the third quarter. Jags are driving. They look really good. And then Etienne fumbles into the end zone. He's pretty much in the end zone. He fumbles in the end zone while at 17-7. They would have gone up 24-7. You got to think it's pretty hard to come back from that late in the third quarter. You're down 17. But, I mean, fumble bug hits him. And the very next play, Tyreek Hill goes 80-yard touchdown on one play. One play drive, 80-yard touchdown, 14-point swing just like that. Instead of 24-7, it is now 17-14, and the Dolphins are back in the game just like that. That's just what Tyreek can do. That's why you trade for a guy like Tyreek Hill. That's why you pay a guy like Tyreek Hill. Next Jags drive, they go for it in their own end on fourth down. They don't get it, but Miami does miss the field goal. That's when I thought, okay, the Jags have survived the onslaught of Miami. They survived the 80-yard touchdown. Miami misses the field goal. They survive after a really dumb decision by Doug Peterson, in my opinion. 6:44 left in the game. Dolphins go on a 73-minute drive and tie that game. Hell of a drive there from the Dolphins where they absolutely had it. Their offense was up and down all day, but when you have to have it, you have to have it, and they did. Shout out to and the boys for getting that done. And then, they get a punt from the Jaguars, whose offense looked horrible in the second half. And then they go down and get the Jason Sanders 52-yard field goal as time expires. Hell of a win for the Dolphins. Comeback victory for them. Finn's defense, they looked incredible today. We talked about it in the season preview that Vic Fangio just wasn't the fit there. They go with a new defensive coordinator. They have 3 sacks, 1 fumble. Held Jacksonville to 2 of 10 on third down and just 267 total yards, which I found super impressive, especially in the opener. Dolphins defense looked revamped. They made Jalen Ramsey, I think, the highest paid corner in football again, or at least he's in the top 3 or whatever. But Jalen Ramsey's still good. Their defense looked good. Jalen Phillips, nice new additions for them as well. Tua, 23 of 37, 338 yards and a touchdown. I told you Tyreek's numbers earlier. Tua really efficient again today, doing what he did, running the offense. Lawrence, I thought, was pretty awful today. I started him yesterday, I started him in fantasy, and that was a mistake. 12 of 21, 162 yards and a touchdown. That's not going to win you a game on the road, especially against a playoff team last year. And then ETN, 12 of 44, 12 carries, 44 yards and a touchdown, and then the fumble. And then their backup, Tank Bigsby, gets 12 carries for 73 yards. So maybe Bigsby gets a couple more carries next week. I don't know. And I think they put Bigsby in for most of the game after ETN had that fumble through the end zone. But Jaguars, in my opinion, have to find a way to win that game. It obviously all starts with the ETN fumble, but good win for the Dolphins. Good comeback win for the Dolphins. They start 1-0. 20-17 is your final in Miami. Okay, let's talk Bengals and Patriots now. Patriots win 16-10. Has to be the most shocking result of the day, without a doubt. I'm looking like an idiot for picking the Bengals to go to the Super Bowl in week 1. This is starting to become let me say this first. Don't disrespect NFL teams like I did. Remember in the season preview, I pretty much didn't say anything about the Patriots, but they're not playing Drake May, and I think they're going to start 0-8. Well, they start 1-0. So now I look like a fucking fool, and don't disrespect NFL teams. Shout out Gerard Mayo, first career NFL win. But this is, in my opinion, starting to become a referendum on Zach Taylor as a head coach, getting his teams prepared in the offseason for week 1 and week 2. They are now 1-10 in the first 2 weeks under Zach Taylor. 1-10. It's hard to imagine that they went to the Super Bowl in one of those seasons, but they're 1-10 under Zach Taylor in the first 2 weeks. That is just not going to get it done, especially in what most people consider and what I consider the most competitive division in football in the AFC North. You can't lose this game. Can't do it. At home to the Patriots, 16-10. You muster up pretty much zero offense. I understand T. Higgins didn't play and Jamar Chase was like, he made himself a game time decision and then played, but you just can't lose this game. Joe Burrow's too good of a quarterback. The Bengals should be a way better team than this. They played just awful today. Patriots led 7-0 in the second quarter, and this is where when I knew the Bengals were going to lose yesterday. Burrow throws 2 touchdowns on the same drive. Mike Gesicki catches one in the corner of the end zone, gets his knee down, but then doesn't secure the football all the way to the ground. Excuse me, that one comes back. And then later in the drive, he goes to the second tight end, Tanner Hudson, who fumbles on the goal line as he's going in. Pats get a field goal to close the half. They're down 10-0. It should be 7-7 or at least 10-7. And the Bengals feel confident going into the half that they got a touchdown and they scored some points. Just can't have that happen if you're the Bengals. First drive of the second half for them, they force a Patriots punt, and then they fumble the punt. 13-10 Patriots, just like that. Just can't do it. The Bengals lost 2 fumbles all of last season, and then they lost 2 yesterday. So a little bit unlucky there, but no business losing this game. Zero business losing the game. Take care of the football. Preparation has to be better if you're Zach Taylor and that team. Credit the Patriots. They showed up, probably heard all the disrespect in the offseason about how they weren't going to be shit and they were going to be the worst team in the NFL. Jacoby Brissett's a veteran quarterback. They showed up to play. Gerard Mayo had those boys ready to play, and they proved it today. Bengals made it respectable in the second half, but let's be honest, that was a joke. That was a joke. Brissett finishes 15-24, 121 yards, no touchdowns. Ramondre Stevenson had the only Patriots touchdown. And then Burrow goes 21 of 29 for 164 yards. Like, what is that? I mean, what is that? Burrow can't have 21 completions for 169 yards. It just can't happen, or 164 yards. It just can't happen. Zach Moss, their new running back, gets the only touchdown to them for the game. But this is a shitty game that if you're a Bengals fan, I can't imagine how you feel tomorrow. You're like, why the fuck can't we win early on in seasons? Well, the Patriots start 1-0, 16-10. And like I said, that division is 3-0 heading into tonight's Monday Night Football game with the Jets. Okay, let's talk Steelers-Falcons now. Steelers at Falcons. 18-10 is your final. The Steelers win. And Mike Tomlin does it again in week 1. Arthur Smith gets his revenge on the team that fired him in the offseason. Just kind of a weird way how this game played out. Obviously, the whole offseason, we're expecting Russell Wilson to start. Mike Tomlin says he's in the driver's seat, quote unquote. Then he picks up a calf injury, pushing a sled in training camp of all things. Only Russell Wilson, only a quarterback would get hurt pushing a sled, and that's Russell Wilson. So Justin, we get news earlier in the week, last week, that Russell Wilson tweaked his calf, and Justin Fields is probably going to start. Well, he does. He does get the start yesterday in his home state of Georgia. Looked exactly like the Bears offense they ran for him, to be honest. But the difference between playing for the Bears and playing for the Steelers is Steelers have TJ fucking Watt on their team. And my God, was he the best player on the field yesterday by a long shot. Finishes the game with 2 tackles for loss, a sack, a fumble recovery. Should have been 2 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, and 2 fumble recoveries, but they had that bullshit offsides call that they called on him when he timed the snap perfectly. That was not offsides, if you ask me. Steelers defense does end up winning the turnover battle 3-0, but I said in the NFL awards last podcast that I didn't think TJ Watt was going to win the Defensive Player of the Year award unless he had like 20-something sacks. Well, he looks really, really, really good, and like he's still firmly in his prime, and that he's firmly a top 3 to 5 defensive player in the NFL, whatever number you want to use. TJ Watt wrecked this game today from start to finish. How about a big time shout out to Chris Boswell, the Boz. Everyone talked about those old Steeler teams, the triple B teams with Big Ben, Antonio Brown, and Le'Veon Bell. There was a 4th B on that team always, and that was Chris Boswell. He's the only one still on the roster, and guess what? He's still bombing footballs for the Steelers. He goes 6 for 6 today. Literally scored every single point. He scored all 18 points for the Steelers today. I'm going to give you the field goal distances in order. 51, 44, 56, 40, 25. I mean, he was just, I think I forgot one in there. 57, 51, 44, 56, 40, 25. So 3 50-yard field goals today or yesterday. He is the most accurate kicker in NFL history from 50-plus yards. The most slept-on kicker in the NFL, unless you live in Pittsburgh or around Pennsylvania. Chris Boswell has been so consistent for a decade now. Shout out Chris Boswell. 6 for 6 field goals yesterday. Justin Fields' stat line, 17 to 23, 156 yards, 14 carries, 57 yards. So nothing special. No touchdowns. George Pickens made some nice plays, 6 catches for 85 yards. I thought Fields' best play of the game was late in the first half when him and Pickens connected for that deep out route. It kind of seemed like a deep over route where Pickens makes the grab and they get in field goal range right before the half. That was crucial. I thought that was a heck of a play by Fields. Pickens looks really good again. I'll be interested to see when Russell Wilson's healthy how much better Pickens will look, because I think Russ is a better deep ball thrower than Fields, and he's more accurate down low as well. So they might trust Wilson to open it up a little bit more. They did not trust Fields to throw the ball in many high leverage situations where he could, potentially turn the football over. He took care of it today. He did his job. They start 1-0, but I don't think if Wilson's healthy next week, I think he's the starting quarterback. Let's just put it that way. Kirk Cousins debuted in Atlanta. 16 to 26, 155 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. I thought Kirk looked bad today. Shout out the Steelers defense. Maybe that was some of it. But Kirk is not a mobile guy. He needs to be able to hit quick passes to get himself settled in early in the game. He needs a run game because that helps set up what he's best at, and that's the play action pass. Steelers let none of that happen today. Cousins has a rough debut. His only touchdown pass was to Kyle Pitts. So shout out Kyle Pitts for getting the end zone if you're a fantasy owner of Kyle Pitts. I believe that's his 3rd career touchdown or something like that, which is just, maybe 5th. But yeah, Cousins probably will look better as the season goes on. But we have to remember he's still recovering from the ACL, and he's not going to play the Steelers defense and TJ Watt every single week. So that's your Steelers Falcons recap. Steelers win 18-10 and start 1-0. That was the first bet on the P-Ways parlay. So we started 1-0 in the early slate. Felt really good about the Steelers plus 3.5. Never really looked like it was in doubt. Just trust Mike Tomlin early in the season, especially in week 1. We'll get to the rest of the parlay here later in the podcast. Next game was Saints and Panthers. This one will be pretty quick to recap. Derek Carr went crazy yesterday. Derek Carr went absolutely crazy yesterday. I had one of my buddies who's a big-time Saints fan. This was just hilarious. He was, I think he texted me in the second, after the second drive. The Saints are up 7-0. Bryce Young throws a pick. He texts me, pick, Saints are going to the Super Bowl. And he kept texting me later in the game, and he goes, Carr for MVP. I just thought that was funny that he was that hyped about him. But Derek Carr, 19 of 23, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns yesterday. Kamara had a great day. Alvin Kamara had a great day as well. 15 carries, 83 yards, and a touchdown for him. They kicked 4 field goals. Saints offense was just really good. And let's be honest, I don't even think I said the final score. 47-10 was the final. This was never a ball game. The Panthers suck. I don't know if I should say that quietly or what, but the Panthers are there's a nice road in the NFL that some teams want to be on, and it's usually the road you want to be on when you need a franchise quarterback, and that's on the road to the number 1 pick, ladies and gentlemen, because the Panthers fucking suck. Like, they're bad. And Bryce Young went 13 of 30 for 161 yards and 2 picks today. He looks really bad today. He got pulled from what I didn't watch. Obviously, I did not watch pretty much any of this game. From what I did see, Bryce did not look good. I think both interceptions were on overthrows. They only had 193 yards of total offense, 1 of 10 on third down, 3 turnovers. Like I said, he got pulled for Andy Dalton. That was probably just because the game was out of hand. But Bryce does not look like the guy that won the Heisman Trophy at Alabama. Obviously, he's not in a great situation by any means, but there's been a lot of great quarterbacks in bad situations that have been able to overcome more things than I've seen Bryce be able to overcome as the Saints start 1-0 in the division. 47-10 win over the Panthers. Vikings Giants, last game of the morning slates that we'll recap. 28-6 Vikings at Giants. They get a road win. 28-6 is your final there. Vikings fumbled on their 3rd play of the season. Giants got a field goal, and then that was all that the rest you could say about the Giants for the rest of the day. Sam Darnold, what's good? What's good, Sam Darnold? I thought Sam Darnold played a hell of a football game today, and coming in, I think I said this in the season preview, that I thought Sam Darnold could be this year's Baker Mayfield. Meaning, went to a situation, got his career revitalized. Baker, that was in LA for that short stint. Darnold obviously spent the entire season last year in San Francisco. I thought he balled out today. 19 of 24, super efficient, 208 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Really liked what I saw from Darnold today. You know, he hasn't started a game in a while. Best team he's ever been on, and that's for damn sure when you think of those Panthers and Jets teams he played on. Aaron Jones in the backfield, 14 carries, 94 yards and a touchdown. Nice debut for the Vikings there. That's a great pickup for them. I mean, I thought they upgraded their running back room getting Aaron Jones. And then Jay Jettas, Justin Jefferson, 4 catches, 59 yards and a touchdown. They didn't ask him to do much today. The game was out of hand pretty early. Just keep your guys healthy, win the game, and get out of Dodge healthy. Andrew Van Ginkel, shout out, game-winning pick 6. One of my buddies sent me a video. He had the exact same, pretty much identical pick 6 against the Browns last year, if I'm not mistaken, like almost identical, right on the, similar to the goal, like right near the goal line, picks it off, runs right in the end zone. So shout out Van Ginkel. That was a great pickup for them in the offseason, makes a play in week 1 for him. Pick 6. Quickly, I don't want to do, you'll notice this about me as the podcast gets further and further along. I don't love openly hating on athletes. I think most of them are are obviously very talented, way more talented than I can ever be. But I'm just a dude sitting, at home watching the games and evaluating what I see. Daniel Jones sucks. He is so bad at playing quarterback. He's a turnover machine. Like, I'm from Vegas, you pull the slot machine and hope that you win some money. Daniel Jones, before almost every drive, just pulls a machine and it just says turnover every time. Like, I just don't understand how this guy has not figured out how to take care of the football and how the Giants right now. If you're a Giants fan sitting at home, I don't know how you watch this game after watching Friday's game and just go, how we have Daniel Jones on our roster and not Saquon Barkley. I mean, it's just crazy. I don't care if Daniel Jones won a playoff game. It was against the Vikings, a team that sucked that year. I feel bad for Giants fans. Like I said, this is a premier franchise that, when is good, it helps the NFL, and I would like to see them be better. But he was 22 of 42 for 186 yards and 2 touchdowns yesterday. He stinks. I feel bad for Malik Neighbors. You could tell in his opening press conference he knew it was going to be a long season. Danny Dimes stinks today. Dayball, you look great on the sidelines, tan, thin, sweet shades on. But I'm sorry, brother. Your quarterback is a nightmare, man. It's just a nightmare. I feel for you Giants fans out there. But they lose the opener 28-6, and it looks like they're headed for a very similar season as they had that they've been having for the last couple of years. So that wraps up your slate of morning games. Let's just quickly run through the scores again. Bills over Cardinals 34-28. Bears over Titans 24-17. Texans over Colts 29-27. Dolphins take care of the Jags 20-17. Bengals in an upset. Shocker Patriots over Bengals in a shocker upset 16-10. Steelers take care of the Falcons 18-10. Spoil Kirk Cousins' debut. Saints rout the Panthers 47-10. And then the Vikings take care of business against the Giants 28-6. Get Sam Darnold his first win as the Vikings quarterback. Okay, let's move to the late window now. Just 4 games in the late window. We'll start with what I thought was the best game of the late window. Probably biased, but it was a weird late window slate. 2 blowouts. One that was kind of close if you just look at the final score. And then the Chargers-Raiders game. Chargers win 22-10. I'll do my fan thoughts at the end of it. We'll just start with an actual breakdown of the game. First half breakdown. It was all about field position. This game was all about field position in the first half. Chargers got short fields a bunch of times. No thanks to Max Crosby, who was wrecking the game. There's a reason I picked him to be my defensive player of the year. You put Christian Wilkins next to him, they were dominating the game early on, especially in the first half. I felt bad for the Raiders defense. They kept getting put in situations where they were pretty much like, well, we just have to not give up 7. We'll give up 3 because the Raiders just offense made a lot of dumb mistakes in the first half. I really liked what I saw from the Chargers defense in the first half, specifically the run defense. The Chargers have not been able to stop the run since Brandon Staley took over and maybe before that. So to see them stop the run, I thought Joey Bosa was really good in the first half today. The rest of the D-line looked good. The first half sucked. Let's just call it what it was. The first half was doo-doo, dog shit. Both teams looked bad. The defenses, you could say, looked pretty good, but I just don't think the offenses executed very well either, so that contributed to that. First half really changed. The Raiders were up 7-3, and then Minshew it looked like he was trying to throw a quick pass to the out. Maybe he's trying to set up a screenplay, and he just Minshew'd it, and it just slipped out of his hands. Fortunately, if you're a Chargers fan like I am, it goes backwards. It's a fumble picked up by the Chargers, and they're in business. They end up doing nothing with it, but they get a field goal, and it's 7-6 at the half. The Chargers in the first half, 2 first downs, 83 total yards, 0 of 7 on third down, and their 6 points, the 2 field goal drives, they only had 10 yards of offense on those drives. So the Raiders were gifting the Chargers. This should have easily been a 7-0 game at the half, if not the Raiders more, with different field position battles based on where the Chargers were. But Raiders gave them 6 points, as far as I'm concerned, in the first half. Gifted the Chargers 6 points. Their offense couldn't do shit at all. 83 yards of total offense is bad. In the first half, I'm sitting here thinking, this looks bad. Greg Roman looks, we can't run the football. Our offensive line getting no push. Herbert looks super rusty. We just couldn't do anything, but our defense kept us in it. Our defense kept us in it, combined with a couple of just silly mistakes for the Raiders on their end. Second half, first 3 drives for the Raiders in the second half. They go punt. Zamir White fumble. Joey Bosa stripped that one. He dove from behind and stripped that one. That was a heck of a play by Joey because Zamir was about to get a first down, keep their drive rolling. And then they missed a field goal from Carlson. So you're looking at, I think they were in field goal range when Joey stripped that ball as well. So you're looking at minimum of 6 points, if not up to 10, that they just kind of piss away there to start the half. And then the Chargers fans get introduced to J.K. Dobbins, who is a guy that I believe I said this in the season preview, that if he's healthy, he brings a different level of explosiveness to the Chargers. Gus Edwards is our big power back. And then you have J.K. Dobbins, who can just take the fucking top off of a defense and exploit a hole. And he's gone for 60 yards to the house. He had a 61-yard run in the second half. That's the longest rush by a Charger in the last 2 seasons. So all you Charger fans at home, or all the people at home trying to think that I was bagging on Austin Eckler or not, I wasn't. Like, Austin Eckler was never a home run play guy the last couple of seasons. He was a touchdown machine, received the ball out of the back, but we didn't have a home run hitter from the backfield. J.K. Dobbins provided that in a big way today. I believe the other long run he had was 56 yards, but he goes 130 yards and 2 touchdowns in the second half alone. Carried the Chargers offense in the second half. It was beautiful to see J.K. Dobbins healthy. Had the torn ACL in 2021 and then the torn Achilles in 2023. He'd only played 9 football games in the last 3 seasons combined. So shout out to J.K. Dobbins today, being back on the field healthy and really exploding in the second half of that game. Ladd McConkey gets his first career touchdown late in that game to put the Chargers up 22-10. Stokes for Ladd. Liked what I saw from him in the middle of the field. Caught a couple balls and then obviously got that touchdown. Looks like he's going to be eventually, hopefully, be the Keenan Allen replacement in terms of third down production, in terms of third down targets. Just really good in the short yardage. Reminds me a lot of the way Keenan can just get in and out of a break real quick and just get his hands on the ball and let him do something with it. I'm not saying he's Keenan Allen, but in terms of that short, quick burst, he's got a lot of that. I liked what I saw from Ladd today. Quentin Johnston had a couple of good grabs. Looked good after the run after catch. Josh Palmer caught a couple balls. Disley was decent. They just thought the passing offense was not very good today. And really, outside of those 2 explosive Dobbins runs, the running game wasn't great either. But that's what happens when you have a guy like Dobbins and you just need one little hole and he can exploit it for you. Turnover margin was 3-0 in favor of the Chargers. The Raiders just dumb turnovers. I thought the Zamir White one was unfortunate. You never see Joey coming from behind. But if you're Minshew, you just can't do that. You just can't do that there. He also threw an interception late in the game as well. So 2 turnovers for Minshew today. If he's going to keep that job, he has to take care of the football. That's just hands down, plain and simple. Jim Harbaugh, season debut, first win with the Chargers. 5-0. He is in the NFL in week 1s. And listen to this. His teams have won the turnover battle in week 1 in all 5 of those games. So San Francisco for 4 years and now this one with LA yesterday. 13-0, their team is winning the turnover battle. That is how you win football games. And if you're a Chargers fan, man, it looked different out there today. New era. Like I said, stopping the run. The offense didn't look great. There was a couple 4th down and 1s where, as a Chargers fan, you're sitting there thinking, oh, we're definitely going for this. And then you remember who our coach is now. And then our defense is actually good. Punt the ball away. Play defense. Don't give them a short field. So that was nice to see as well. I really liked the way Harbaugh managed the game in terms of, especially with how poorly we were executing on offense. I saw he went over after, I think, the 5th straight punt of the first half and just kind of try to fire up the guys. But win is a win in week 1. Herbert, 17-26, 144 yards and a touchdown. Really don't remember the last time the Chargers won a game, if ever, in the Herbert era, where he has under 150 yards. Like, I don't think that's ever happened, really. It just, Herbert usually has to carry the Chargers to a win. So that was very pleasing to see. And then Minshew, 25 of 33, 257s, touchdown, interception, and a fumble. So up and down game for Minshew. He's got to hold on to the football if he wants to keep that job. Once again, Chargers win 22-10. Now, fan reaction. Full bias Chargers fan reaction. I was nervous for this first game today. Nervous, but excited. We are playing the Raiders. The last time the Raiders and the Chargers were on a football field, they beat us 63-21. They had Christian Wilkins, Max Crosby still on the other side. And then early in the game, I was like, man, what the fuck is going on? We can't run the ball. Herbert can't complete a pass. We look like shit. But I'm in the back of my mind, I'm going, but our defense looks good. We're stopping the run, coming up with big plays. I think in the first 2 drives, we stopped a 2nd and 1, a 3rd and 1, and a 4th and 1. So I was liking what I saw from my defense. The defense was flying around. But the offense, I'll say it this way. Dobbins is going to have to look like that pretty consistently. And we need to find out who our top receiver is going to be. It didn't look like we had a lot of threat on the outside yesterday. It did not look like that at all. Quentin looked good after the catch today. I liked what I saw from Ladd. As I saw, the running backs looked nice. How about Joe Alt? When I was watching the game, the stat that I saw, it might have finished a different way, but Joe Alt, 8 one-on-one snaps against Max Crosby, 0 pressures allowed. So Big Joe Alt showed up today and proved why we took him where we did instead of a wide receiver. So really pleased with that. Loved our additions on defense. Just it looked like a different Chargers team out there. Way more physical, less dumb plays, more sound football. Special teams played great. I loved it. Start of a new era. Tempered expectations. We're 1-0. But it's always great to start 1-0 to a season, especially when it's against the division and let alone against those damn Raiders. And for all you Raider fans, if there are any listening out there, who's got it better than we do? Nobody. All right, moving on now. Cowboys at Browns. 33-17 Cowboys win. What a fucking joke of a game this was for the Browns. But we're going to start with Tom Brady making his broadcast debut today. As somebody who has done live TV, like legit professional TV, suit and tie every day, talk on TV, and somebody who's done live hits, which is, if you don't know what a live hit is, basically what Brady is doing is a live hit. They're just going to him on camera, and they're just talking back and forth. I've done those things number of times. I did that for a job. I've sat at the desk and done that, and I've done play-by-play as well. So what I thought from Brady is you could tell he was nervous when they came to him. If you didn't see the start of the broadcast, he looked nervous early. As somebody just for people that at home that don't know professional TV, and I'm not saying I'm an expert, I was just a very low-level person, but I do know some basics. He was looking at the camera at awkward times, and you could tell he was kind of talking in choppy sentences, meaning like he would say, and the Browns, are, and Deshaun Watson needs to do this today. He would kind of talk in choppy ways, and he was, but I thought he settled in, and it's Tom Brady. He looked nervous, but it was a little interesting throughout the game. I think he's still trying to figure out what he can say, what he can't say, what he wants to say, what he doesn't want to say. But overall, shout out Tom Brady. I love that he's given this a try. And if you're a football fan, listen to his games. I was trying to listen to as much of it as I could today, just to get the experience of what it was like calling with Tom Brady. Kevin Burkhardt's so good, his play-by-play partner. So he's going to continue. Burkhardt was setting him up nicely throughout the game as well and getting him more comfortable. Didn't help that the game was kind of a blowout, but Brady will be just fine in the booth. Everyone who was overreacting, I think, can relax a little bit. As somebody who's done TV, it's not easy doing it, especially for the first time and when you're fucking Tom Brady. Dak Prescott got a brand new contract before this game started. I said in the season preview that if they didn't get it done before the season, they wouldn't talk about it at all, and they get it done at the 11th hour, just like Jerry Jones is known to do. 4 years, $240 million. He gets $231 million guaranteed, $1 million more than Deshaun Watson got guaranteed. He is now the first $60 million quarterback. Shout out Dak Prescott and his agents. That's what happens when you have the leverage. He used the leverage, and he gets $60 million from the Cowboys because what else were they going to do? But let's move on to the game now. Browns took a 3-0 lead, and then it was literally all Dallas from there. Like the Browns did pretty much fucking nothing from there on out when the game was actually competitive. Brandon Cooks gets the opening touchdown of the game, and then Ezekiel Elliott in his return to Dallas. I will mention this time, he wore 21 in Dallas the first time. He's wearing 15 now. Why is that important? He wore 15 at Ohio State. That was when he was at his best. I like seeing Zeke back in 15. Don't know if it changes anything because he is older, but it was nice to see Zeke get back in the end zone for the Cowboys. Both of those were 70-yard drives, so the Cowboys were handling the Browns defense early on, which kind of surprised me. But the Cowboys have a great offense. I just thought the Browns defense would show up a little bit more and just get some stops early. They looked slow, and the Cowboys were just doing whatever they wanted to them. Brandon Aubrey gets 2 field goals. It was 20-3 at the half. But kind of knew the game was over. At that point, the Cowboys are really good, and the Browns looked pretty poor up to that point. Cowboys defense in the first half played out of their mind. So if you thought the Chargers stats from the first half were bad, the Browns were 54 total yards, 1 first down, and 0 of 6 on third down. I said in the season preview that I didn't have any faith in the Browns because of one simple question. Is Deshaun Watson still good at football? I don't think he's $230 million guaranteed contract good anymore at all. Like, not even in the slightest. One quick note before I talk about the quarterbacks in depth. Brandon Aubrey got fucking robbed yesterday. Robbed. Right before the half. 66-yarder. Remember, Justin Tucker has the NFL record 66-yard long field goal. That was in Detroit at Ford Field in a dome. Brandon Aubrey today was in Cleveland. And he made a 66-yarder. And they fucking called it back because of a delay of game, which I thought was bullshit. But Brandon Aubrey made a 66-yarder in the weather, like in outdoors. That was ridiculous. Just shout out him. Didn't count, but whatever. Kevontae Turpin, 60-yard punt return to open up the second half. The game was over after that. Dak, 19-32, 179 yards and a touchdown. He had to do nothing today. Deshaun Watson, 24-45, 169 yards, a touchdown, and 2 picks. I don't believe in Deshaun at all anymore. I don't. Loved him in college. Thought he was a superstar in college. Loved him early on in the Texans. After all the things happened, you just can't root for a guy like that anymore. And he's really... It almost feels like what happened to Le'Veon Bell when Le'Veon Bell took the full year off and then just wasn't very good at football anymore. Deshaun Watson was out for like a year and a half of football, and just now he's not very good at football anymore. Cowboys cruise 33-17, and they fucked the P-Ways parlay, folks. Under 41 was the play. It was looking great because the Browns couldn't do anything, but the Cowboys could do everything on offense. And then when Turpin returned the kick, I texted my buddy and was like, "Yeah, this parlay is dead. When you get a special teams touchdown on an under, I can't imagine the percentage of winning an under when a special teams touchdown happens are very high. But regardless, Cowboys win 33-17, and I start 0-1 on P-Ways parlays for the season. Next game, Buccaneers versus Commanders, 37-20. Buccaneers win. My guy that I will always go to bat for, Baker Mayfield, man. Baker Mayfield firmly establishes himself as QB1 in case any of you guys had questions after last year. I never did. Gets the $100 million contract in the offseason and goes, oh, so there's still some talk about where I'm positioned as a top player in this league at the quarterback position. How about 24 for 30, 289 yards, and 4 tugs in the opener? Baker was surgical today. Baker looked incredible today. When Baker plays like this, you understand why he went number 1 overall. Doesn't have the crazy physical tools, doesn't have the crazy arm talent like some of these other guys does, but what he does do is he runs a fucking offense like a sheriff. He does. He runs an offense like a sheriff. Just slings the pill, dots it everywhere. And when you have two guys, one of them named Mike Evans, one of them named Chris Godwin, just get the ball in their hands. Just get the ball in their hands. Mike Evans today, 5 catches, 61 yards, 2 touchdowns. That one he had in the corner of the end zone. Sheesh. Sheesh. They always say that receivers who can have late hands are so dangerous in the NFL. That was as late gets. Had a defender on him, puts him out at the last second, pulls that bitch in. Tutty. Then he gets another one later in the game. And then Godwin, who's one of the most underrated players in the NFL, period, especially at the wide receiver position, just because he plays in Tampa and doesn't do any of the flashy wide receiver shit, like dress crazy or whatever. He had 8 catches, 83 yards, and a touchdown today. Chris Godwin is one of the best in the middle of the field receivers in the NFL. I love watching Chris Godwin play. So consistent. So consistent. Baker trusts those two guys. That probably the most underrated wide receiver tandem in the NFL. Buccaneers looked really damn good today. Their defense looked good today as well. That's why I picked the Buccaneers to win this division. I trust Baker more than I trusted Kirk, and I trust Todd Bowles and this coaching staff to get this defense fired up. I trust Baker and Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. End of story. That's why I picked the Bucs to win the division. I thought they looked incredible today in the opener. Let's talk Jaden Daniels' debut real quick. 17-24, 180 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. They just didn't really ask him to do much throwing the football wise. I don't think they wanted to turn the ball over. Looked decent throwing the football. I didn't get the ball to Scary Terry as much as I would have liked. Really not even close to as much as I would like. And then he had 16 carries for 88 yards and 2 touchdowns. Love the 88 yards and 2 touchdowns. 16 carries for 17 games. Not going to work. Not going to work for winning football games. Not going to work for keeping your number 2 overall pick healthy. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. And oh, by the way, if you want to win with a rookie quarterback in their first career start, you can't go down 13-0 on the road. But Jay Daniels showed flashes today. He's really special running the football. Needs to learn how to slide. I don't know what his sliding is. He just kind of falls to the ground in the most awkward way. Somebody get one of the Nationals baseball players to teach this dude how to slide, because some of those were ugly. Took some big hits today. Got his helmet ripped off on the goal line, but they were never winning this game when they went down 13-0. Jaden Daniels did play pretty well. I thought it was a solid debut for Jaden Daniels. He'll be just fine moving forward. But Commanders end up losing this one 37-20. And then the Seahawks at Broncos. Seahawks versus Broncos. Seahawks win 26-20 as rookie quarterbacks on Sunday start 1-2. Caleb's your only one to get a win. Bo Nix falls in his first career start. He was the first Broncos rookie quarterback to start week 1 since John Elway, though. So not only does that tell you how good John Elway was for a long, extended stretch of his career, but it also shows you kind of that the Broncos haven't had a good rookie quarterback since John Elway. They haven't had a good one. I mean, Peyton started for them for a while. Paxton Lynch didn't work out. A couple of their other draft picks didn't work out, but Bo Nix gets his first career start today. It was a weird first half, super weird first half. It was 13-19 at the half, but there were 4 field goals. Denver made 3 of them. Seattle made 1 of them. Geno had a rushing touchdown. So there's your 13. 7 plus 3, 13. And then the Broncos had 2 safeties. That's how we got to 9. 2 safeties. They were up. They had 13. The Seahawks had 9. Geno touchdown and then a field goal. But they had 3 field goals and then 2 safeties. They're the first team with 2 safeties in the game since 2017, and they do it in the first half. One of them came on a holding penalty, and then the other one was a tackle in the end zone. That was just weird. I remember seeing the updates for that game, just like, did they get another safety? So it's 13-9 at the half. And then the Seahawks outscored Denver 17-7 in the second half. Both running backs, Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, had a rushing touchdown. And then Bo Nix also got his first career touchdown late in the second half. That's the one that kind of made the score respectable. Geno was efficient today. 18 to 25, 171 yards, 2 touchdowns, one of them being a rushing touchdown and then an interception. Solid solid outing for Geno today. Like I said, a lot of QBs under 200 yards today, which I thought was odd, a little strange. Not a whole bunch of offensive explosion today. Bo Nix finishes with 26 of 42, 138 yards, no touchdown, 2 interceptions, did have the rushing touchdown. Another quarterback under 135 yards, but 26 completions, 42 attempts for 138 yards. Number one, 26 completions for 138 yards means they did not throw the ball down the field at all. And also 42 attempts from Bo Nix in his first career games. First career games mean you didn't run the football well at all, and you're not going to win a lot of games when you're asking Bo Nix to throw the football 42 times. Broncos got some stuff to clean up. Seahawks had the best uniforms of the day by far. I don't know if those are their permanent home uniforms, but they need to be. Those are some of the best uniforms the NFL has ever made. Quick rant, I don't know why when we have great uniforms, the NFL or any sport just decides, you know what, we're going to go away from those forever. You can only wear them like once every 4 years. Fuck that. Give us the creamsicles every season for the Bucs and give us those Seahawks uniforms every season as well. But that wraps up your late slate recap. Just to recap real quick here, Chargers 22-10 over the Raiders. Cowboys go on the road to beat the Browns 33-17. Buccaneers statement win in week 1 over the Commanders 37-20. And then the Seahawks take get the win in Mike McDonald's first career game 26-20. Quickly, I'm gonna go through here and count how many quarterbacks had under 200 yards today. So you got Geno and Bo Nix both under 200 yards. Dak and Deshaun both under 200 yards. Herbert under 200 yards. That's 5. So 5 of the 6 quarterbacks, or excuse me, yeah. So Geno and Nix under, Deshaun and Dak under, Herbert under. So 5 of the 8 quarterbacks, or excuse me, 6 of the 8 quarterbacks, because Jaden Daniels had under 200 as well, went under 200 yards. So 6 of the 8 quarterbacks in the late window go under 200 yards. And then let's see in the early slate, Kyler went under, so that's 7 QBs. Caleb and Levis both went under. That's 9 QBs. Lawrence went under, that's 10. Burrow and Brissett both went under, that's 12. Fields and Cousins both went under, that's 14. Bryce Young went under, that's 15. And Danny Dimes went under, 16. So 16 quarterbacks today, or yesterday, excuse me, on Sunday, under 200 passing yards for the day. That is a little shocking. 200 yards is I don't think that's a hard number to get to. So 16 quarterbacks being under 200 yards is a little wild. Hopefully we see the offenses pick up again in week 2, especially if you play fantasy, like I'm sure all of us do. Like, let's get some offense flowing in this bitch. Like, come on. But that wraps up your early morning and afternoon slates of window of games. Football's back, baby. Woke up with a different feeling yesterday. You wake up with a different excitement. I tweeted this out. If you don't follow, hit me with a follow on Twitter at @oneway_sports. But I tweeted this out that I think that the first full Sunday of NFL football should be an American holiday, because answer me this, like, what is more American than football? Like, what are we doing here? Let's make that a holiday. Everyone gets Monday off to enjoy the Monday Night Football game afterwards. Just thought out there. I think that first full slate of Sunday games should be a national holiday. But all right, we got one more game to preview, and then one more game to react to coming up on the other side. Jets versus 49ers Monday Night Football preview coming up, and then reaction to the Sunday Night Football game, Rams and Lions. Here you go. Well, what a Sunday Night Football game to kick off the season, huh? Rematch of last year's wild card game between Rams and Lions. Matthew Stafford back in Detroit again. Jared Goff playing against the Rams again. You know all the storylines heading into this one. What a finish. 26-20 is your final. Lions win. Their first overtime win since 2016. Shows how bad the Lions were. They weren't even really in overtime games, I can't even imagine, since 2016 when they last had Stafford in those good years. But Lions won the wildcard game 24-23. Tonight was 26-20. 750 yards of total offense tonight. I mean, sheesh. Both teams just balling. Stafford went crazy tonight. The Rams ran it and threw it really well. Thoroughly enjoyed that game. Missed some of the first half because I was recording obviously what you just saw before, but I caught enough of it, and especially late when the Rams started to make their comeback. But so first half, Lions led 10-3. Jahmyr Gibbs got the touchdown. And then the second half, I think the world got the introduction, as I said. I believe I said this in the season preview, that Jameson Williams is going to have a breakout year. His last year at Alabama, if you didn't watch it, was, I mean, that dude was a nuclear weapon. He was just burning people left and right. I believe that was the year that they went to they beat Georgia in the SEC championship game. And then he got hurt in the play. I think he got hurt in that SEC championship game. But regardless, they got the full introduction tonight. He had spotty minutes, spotty touches last year. This year tonight he fully introduced himself to the world. 52-yard bomb touchdown to start the third quarter. They led the Lions led 17-3 at that point. Williams finished with a career high 5 catches and a career high 121 yards with that tug. He's so fast. I think he's 98 speed in Madden. He's 99 speed in real life. He's just that fast. He's really, really good. He's stepping into his own as like a true NFL receiver. He's a little bit smaller than some of these elite number ones, but I mean, he can do things if you get the ball in his hands, and he showed that tonight, and he can truly burn guys. So it was 17-3 at that point, and that's when the Rams decided, hey, we're either going to get blown out tonight or we're going to show up and we're going to come back in this game. And Stafford, you knew, in Detroit, was never going to let them just get blown out and run out of the building tonight. McVay's also too good of a coach, and the Lions kind of just play tight games, it feels like, for the most part. If you can score with them, you can play tight football games with the Lions. So on the Rams' next 3 drives, they score to eventually take the lead. The first one's an 11-play, 70-yard drive where Cooper Kupp and Kyren Williams have 47 of the 70 yards. Kyren Williams caps that one off with a 2-yard touchdown run. So you're starting to see the Rams playmakers really get going. Everyone projected a big breakout year for Kyren Williams this year. And then Cooper Kupp 2 years ago was the Triple Crown winner, dealt with injuries last year. A lot of experts that I saw, and including myself, felt that Cooper Kupp is going to break out again this year as long as he stays healthy. He's too good of a receiver. We saw Puka re-aggravate that knee injury, I think, in the first half that he dealt with in training camp. So Cooper was really the main option tonight. I'll get to his finishing numbers tonight when we wrap up the Cooper Kupp conversation. But next drive was a 7-play, 76 yards, and they end that with a field goal. So now it's 17-13. Rams are fully back in this game. The Lions are struggling on offense. There's a bunch of punts and I think a turnover mixed in there, an interception mixed in there. Interception right here. Right after the 76-yard field goal drive, 17-13, Goff throws a pick, and it's a 10-play, 80-yard drive for the Rams, capped off by a 9-yard Cooper Kupp touchdown. And there was 4.5 minutes left to play, and everyone's thinking, well, the Lions either need a field goal to put this thing to overtime, and if they don't score, Rams going to need a couple first downs, get this thing down to the 2-minute warning. Maybe they just kneel this thing out in Detroit and get their revenge. Cooper Kupp tied a career high 14 catches tonight, 110 yards in that touchdown I just mentioned. He was vintage Cooper Kupp tonight. If they can get Puka to stay healthy again, if they can get Puka to stay healthy this season and Cooper Kupp to stay healthy, Stafford's going to have a monster season throwing the football. Because those are two of the best receivers in football. You saw what Puka did when he was on the field tonight. Still, just you can't tackle the guy. He's just a monster. And with a big UFC week coming up this week, he's good friends with Dana White, and he's a big UFC fan. Yeah, like he just has that kind of mentality of just a dog, like doesn't want to go down, doesn't want to get tackled, similar to like a UFC fighter who just refuses to get taken down. Will always stand in the pocket and trade with you. You give him two, he's going to throw you back in there with a body shot or a kick to the leg or something. That's kind of what Puka reminds me of when he's got the football and moving on the run. I love watching him play football. He's so physical. And then the teams trade punts after that, tie game. And then the Lions they start the drive where they need points or the game's over. And Goff hits Laporte over the middle. It's aided by a 15-yard penalty. They get a helmet to helmet. Lions string a couple plays together. They kick a game-tying field goal. We go to overtime. Before we get to overtime, Stafford almost throws a pick on the outside when there was less, I think, 20-ish seconds left in the game. He almost throws a pick, and the Lions would have been able to at least return a little bit of it, and then they still had a timeout, if not two, remaining, so they could have got a play or two and then maybe kicked the game-winning field goal. That would have been wild, but Stafford gets bailed out there a little bit. Lions win the toss in overtime, and they march right down the field, and David Montgomery slams it down the Rams' throat. They never get to touch it, and the game's over just like that. You have to remind yourself also of the regular season overtime rules as opposed to the playoff ones. I don't know if any of us have really adjusted to the overtime playoff rules because of the fact that we haven't seen a bunch of overtime games since the Bills had that rule change after 13 seconds. But yeah, the Lions, you kind of had the feeling with the atmosphere in the building that night, and if the Lions could get a first down right away, that they were going to win the football game. Rams played really good tonight, though. Their young defense played really well against a great Lions offense. I know the yardage sounds crazy for both sides, but there was plays made by both defenses all over the place. Goff was solid and great when he needed to be. Got the whole offense involved. Big game for both running backs. Goff was 18 to 28, 217, a touchdown and an interception. It was all right. He made the throws when he needed to make the throws, it felt like, and they leaned on the run game for most of it tonight. Montgomery, 17 carries, 91 yards, and a touchdown, and then Gibbs also had a touchdown. So Gibbs and Montgomery continue what they built from last season, which is just being a super dynamic backfield where, Gibbs can do anything, really catch the ball, run downhill, make a man miss, and then Montgomery's just a beast back there. I think he's super underrated. He was when he was in Chicago too. I think that's why Detroit saw him. They saw him twice a year and was just like, we'll take this guy with a better offensive line all day. And he's proven to make it worth their while. He was great for them last year. He continued it in week one last night. And then Stafford was 34 of 39 for 317, a touchdown and an interception. I mean, he was slinging the rock last night. Slinging it. I mean, Chris Collinsworth was, I don't know if he had the Mahomes level, what in his mouth last night for Stafford, but it almost feels better if Collinsworth is doing it for a guy like Stafford because it's so little people actually appreciate what Stafford was. If you watched enough Packers games or just paid attention to that division enough when the Lions had Stafford when he was young and they had Calvin Johnson, like Aaron Rodgers even said it himself, like everyone gives me credit for all these crazy throws that I was making all these years. It's like number 9 in Detroit was doing the same thing, and he continued to do it. It got put on display in the Super Bowl. He was doing it again tonight. Collinsworth was all over it. He made a throw that was just ridiculous. He was falling back, throws it to the left side while Hutchinson's coming down his throat on a third down too, I believe. Ridiculous throw by Stafford, but Collinsworth said it might be the throw of the season, and I just went, it's week one, Chris. It's week one. And he'll probably say that 5 or 7 more times in the rest of the season because that's just Chris Collinsworth, and you gotta love him. Love listening to Rico call games. So fun. Tirico knows what he's doing. Tirico is one of the best in the business. So fun, and then you just get the entertainment value of Chris Collinsworth. So that game was so fun last night. Heck of a way to start the season. All of the primetime games have delivered. So far, Chiefs-Ravens was really good. Eagles-Packers was great. Tom Brady's debuted. I guess you can call those the primetime games in the late window. And the Romo and the Raiders-Chargers game wasn't great, but those technically aren't like standalone primetime games, but the standalone primetime games have been great. So Lions win 26-20. First overtime win since 2016, just to recap that. Let's get into the final primetime game of week 1, which I'm so excited about. And you should be too, because it feels weird when you don't see the Niners play on Sunday, and it always feels weird when you don't see certain quarterbacks play on Sunday. It was weird not having Mahomes play today. It was weird not having Lamar and Jalen Hurts and Jordan Love. So you have 4 premier quarterbacks not playing on Sunday. Josh Allen stole the spotlight today. Baker Mayfield in that conversation as well for just best quarterback of Sunday in that window. Dak played all right today as well, but I liked Baker and Josh Allen if you're just going to give an MVP of that window. And then primetime, we had Stafford and Goff tonight. And so tomorrow we get Purdy in the Niners versus Aaron Rodgers in the Jets. I mean, let's fucking go, boys. Like, let's fucking go, guys. Like, this is a hell of a Monday Night Football game. I know we were just as excited for it last year as well, when Rodgers was playing. But it'll be nice to have Rodgers back in the fold. Let's hope he can stay healthy for more than 4 plays this year. That was just so unfortunate last year when we didn't get anything besides 4 games. He runs out of the tunnel with the American flag. 4 plays later, it's over. But they end up beating the Bills. That ended up being a great game that night. I'm excited to see how the Niners respond from the NFC Championship. Or not the NFC Championship game, excuse me, the Super Bowl loss again. This is a Niners team that I talked about in the season preview. That is their window closing. I think it is, just because of how many guys they've paid. Their window is closing with this specific core set of guys, and you know which guys I'm talking about. There's about 6 to 8 of them. So we'll see. We'll see. It's a big season for the Niners, big season for Shanahan again. They need to keep Purdy healthy, and they need to win a lot of football games, because that fan base is craving a Super Bowl. Let's get to the betting line real quick. San Francisco is favored by 3.5, and then the over/under is 43.5. I'd take the Jets and the points just because it's a primetime game Monday night. Aaron Rodgers, their defense is really good. I expect it to be a 3-point game either way, whoever wins. Over/under's a whole different story because of how good both defenses are, but who knows? You can have that conversation amongst yourselves. I'm not great at predicting how many points people score, as you saw. Predicted under 41. There was 50 in that Browns game, but besides the point, let's get into the main storylines just of this game and kind of what you'll hear in the pregame anyways later tonight. Let's talk about the pregame real quick. Jason Kelce makes his debut on Monday Night Football officially tonight. That Monday Night Football crew is top tier. You got SVP hosting now. SVP's the best in the biz at whatever he's doing. Just love SVP. And then you have Ryan Clark, Swagoo, Marcus Spears, who I love. If you don't like Marcus Spears, whatever. I love Swagoo. It's my guy. And then you got the debut to Jason Kelce. I mean, I'm excited to see this with Jason Kelce. Excited to see him on TV. He'll be fantastic. I think the Manningcast goes tomorrow. Definitely goes tomorrow. Manningcast debuts tomorrow, which will be sick. You get Belichick and Peyton and Eli talking Rodgers if he's healthy, and then these 2 great teams. That'll be awesome. Storylines, both teams. I mean, they're both teams are entering the season with fan bases that are expecting to win the Super Bowl, and definitely teams that are expecting to win the Super Bowl. Niners for sure. Rodgers will make sure that building thinks that the standard is no less than a Super Bowl this year. Niners have the second best Super Bowl odds at plus 600. Jets are at 8th at plus 1900. So I mean, the sportsbooks expect both these teams to be really good this year, just like I'm sure most of us do as well, as long as Rodgers stays healthy. The caveat in everything is if Rodgers stays healthy, and also with the Niners, if Purdy stays healthy as well. He hasn't proven to be injury prone at all during his career, but you get my point. You got to keep your quarterback healthy. Jets' longest playoff drought in the NFL. They haven't won a playoff game since 2010. That's a long time. And Rodgers is brought here to put an end to that. I picked them to win the division. I really want Rodgers to stay healthy. People also forget the narrative with just Rodgers in the 49ers itself. They passed on him. They drafted Alex Smith as the number 1 overall pick. Rodgers is from that area. Went to school, went to JC in that area, went to Cal. You get the whole thing. Like, Rodgers is going to be ready and fired up to go tomorrow. If they protect him, I expect a monster game from Rodgers, or at least a typical Rodgers game. If it's 19-21 for 230 and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, but Breece Hall goes crazy and Garrett Wilson catches both touchdowns. Like, you get what I'm saying. If Rodgers is feeling it tomorrow night, we could be in for something special in terms of the game as a whole. Niners, obviously, 2 Super Bowl losses, 19-23, both to the Chiefs. There's no real shame in that, but they did lead in both those games, especially in the first one late in the fourth quarter. I'm not going to get into that. The Niners fans have had enough. But what I'm probably most excited for tomorrow, outside of the Rodgers, obviously, if we haven't seen Aaron Rodgers play football in a year plus, guys, like, whatever you feel about him, like, you can't lie, you love watching him play football. You do. I know you do. So, besides the Rodgers storyline, I'm most excited for Breece Hall and Christian McCaffrey. I picked Breece Hall to win Offensive Player of the Year. You have CMC, the reigning Offensive Player of the Year, the best running back in football. That could be sweet tomorrow night. If we get both of those guys getting blocked up front and they can go really spring out and put on a show tomorrow, both in the pass game and the run game. Really excited to see both those guys go head to head. Both offenses should be really fun to watch. Quickly, let's talk about Ayuk. Signs the big deal last week, but he hasn't played in training camp at all. I don't expect him to be a huge part of the game plan tomorrow. It does help that they had an extra day to prepare, with it being a Monday game and no travel. But I don't know. I mean, you saw Jamar Chase today didn't get a whole bunch of targets for the Bengals. They obviously didn't play very well altogether, but who knows what we'll see from Ayuk tomorrow. Trent Williams, on the other hand, is a whole different conversation. That dude is the best left tackle in football and maybe the best offensive line in football, or offensive lineman in football. I expect him to dominate tomorrow. Would you expect anything like this? This is Trent fucking Williams we're talking about. So no, just intrigued to see what we see from Ayuk with no training camp and how much do they use him. They'll be down Ricky Pearsall, their first round pick, which sucks. Obviously, I talked about the incident with him getting shot through the chest. Thankful and lucky that, he's alive and will be able to play in the NFL coming up later this season. And then an under the radar storyline that you will definitely hear later tonight on Monday Night Countdown. Leonard Floyd played for the Bills last year, was the one that sacked Rodgers when he tore his Achilles. He's on the Niners now. So hopefully he does not tear Aaron Rodgers' Achilles again this season, because we all want to see Aaron Rodgers play football. But just a fun little in tomorrow's storyline game. Niners and Jets. Get fired up. I mean, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman on the call too. They're making their regular season debut. Can't ask for a better game tonight, guys, to cap off week 1. I'm excited for it. You are too. I'll make my pick here quickly. I'm going to take the Niners at home. I'm going to take the Jets. I'm going to take the Jets riding the momentum. I'm strictly taking this because I want to root for Aaron Rodgers tonight. So I'm going to take the Jets to win. I guess I'm taking Jets, and I would take Jets money line or Jets plus 3.5, whichever one you guys want to knock me for if I don't win it. So Jets would be my pick for tonight's game later tonight. So enjoy Monday Night Football, and let's quickly get into I have 4 overreactions. I'm not a big overreaction Monday guy, but it is fun, and I was just sitting here at my laptop thinking about fun ones to do, ones that aren't super obvious and ones that might kind of shock the system a little bit, or maybe you would just be like Parker or P-Way, of course. I mean, you're not, that's not an overreaction at all. So I'm going to give you 4. I'm going to go from 4 to 1 in terms of heat level on the overreaction. Number 4, it'll be a 2-man race for the MVP. I've seen enough. Through 1 week of games, I've seen enough. Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes. That will be your MVP race this year. I tried to look up some stats about how many times Manning Peyton Manning and Tom Brady finished top 5 in MVP in the same season. I couldn't find a whole bunch of research. We obviously know Peyton's won 5 and Brady's won 3 MVPs. So there's 8 MVPs right there together. You have to imagine that one of them in those seasons where they each won, you have to imagine that a couple of those, the other guy was in the top 5, if not every single time they were in the top 5. So it feels like one of those years we finally get a reminiscent of a Manning versus Brady MVP type of two great teams again, Allen versus Mahomes. And who wouldn't love that? I mean, the narrative might get really annoying on all the talk shows and all that stuff, but you're talking about the 2 best quarterbacks in football going head to head for the MVP, putting up monster numbers. Their teams are winning. I think that is very likely this season. 2-man race for the MVP. I think Mahomes' offense is just going to be so good, and he's going to put up so many numbers, just dumping it off to Xavier Worthy and doing all that stuff, and that. And then Josh Allen just looks so efficient today. 9 different receivers I mentioned earlier in the podcast, and he spread it around nicely. I saw a stat. Josh Allen tied for the most ever games, 2 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns with 4. Just a freak show. One of the second best quarterback in the NFL, one of the best players in the NFL. Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes, 2-man MVP race for the whole season. That is my number 4 overreaction from week 1. Number 3. This one might be obvious. Maybe should have made it 4, but we're going to go with it at 3. The Giants will bench Daniel Jones for Drew Lock. I'm going to see if I can find their bye week real quick right here. But I mentioned it earlier in the podcast. Daniel Jones is not good. And I want to preface this, that the main reason why I think Daniel Jones will get benched. So their bye week is week 11. But the main reason I think Daniel Jones will get benched is because I think Daboll could be potentially trying to save his job. If it comes out later in the season that the Giants' season starts to go bad and it comes out that the Giants firmly believe in Daboll and Joe Shane, then I still believe that this decision gets made. If Daboll's trying to save his job, I think that this decision gets made. If Daboll isn't trying to save his job and him and Joe Shane are safe, I still think they make this move. Daniel Jones is not good, and Brian Daboll needs a quarterback that can at least kind of run his offense. I feel bad for the guy. He ran a sick offense in Buffalo with Josh Allen. Now, granted, that's Josh Allen in Buffalo, but Daniel Jones, I think, will be benched by the time week 11 rolls around, which is their bye week, if he doesn't get injured before that. He was awful he was awful yesterday. I don't expect it to get any better as the season goes along. Thankfully, Saquon got out of there. Hopefully, they can be bad enough to get Malik Neighbors a quarterback in the draft this upcoming season. I'm sorry, Giants fan. I didn't mean to go at you this whole most of this pod, but I think Daniel Jones is bad, and I can't imagine that most of you guys want Daniel Jones to be your quarterback if you're a Giants fan. But that's my number 3 overreaction from week 1. Giants will bench Daniel Jones for Drew Lock by week 11 if he's still the backup, because I know Drew Lock got hurt. Number 2. Dolphins and Jaguars will both miss the playoffs. They played today. Didn't necessarily love what I saw from either team. Turnover problem for Jacksonville. Led 17-7, should have closed that game out. Great team. A team that's going to challenge the Texans to win that division. Closes that game out. Wins that game on the road. Sends a statement. They didn't. And then Miami. I just don't see it long term through the season. I know Tyreek played really well today, and HN looked good. I think they're just one key injury away on offense from that picture looking a whole lot different. I hope it's not the truth, because I like watching them play a lot, but I didn't love that game at all today. I didn't love what I saw from either team execution wise in that game. Maybe this isn't that hot of a take or that big of an overreaction, but I firmly believe that Dolphins and Jaguars will both miss the playoffs. And Jaguars missed it last year. Dolphins made it and were one and done last year. I think they both missed the playoffs this year. Didn't love what I saw from them in week 1. That's my second overreaction from week 1. Dolphins, Jags missed the playoffs. And my number 1 overreaction from week 1. Kirk Cousins will be one and done in Atlanta. Now, I think that he plays the whole season for Atlanta this year. But the whole offseason, I kept hearing different people like Mike Florio and other guys that look at contracts, real insiders of the league that look at contracts. And every single one of them said that this contract is so tradable after this season. And the Falcons really only committed big time money to Kirk Cousins for 1 year. Falcons kind of look like shit yesterday, excuse me. Steelers defense maybe that's just that good, but they didn't draft Michael Penix to sit. I don't think they drafted Michael Penix to sit him like Jordan Love sat for 2 or 3 years. And I don't think Penix was at the point in his development that Love was at when he was drafted. Penix needs to play sooner than later. I think it's a one and done with Kirk Cousins in Atlanta. I think they missed the playoffs. We'll see how the NFC shakes out. I'm not going to say that now. They'll be one and done. Either Kirk gets traded. I think I already said I think we see Penix this year, whether it's just for a start because Kirk's hurt or whatever. Kirk doesn't really get hurt, so that would be surprising. But I think it's a one and done with Kirk in Atlanta, and then get on to Penix as fast as possible. Kyle Pitts caught a touchdown today, but their defense played pretty well. I just did not like what I saw from Kirk in that offense at all. Bijan continues to not be fully what we want him to be. He was pretty good yesterday, but I didn't like what I saw from Kirk in Atlanta offensively whatsoever. I think they're one and done with Kirk Cousins in Atlanta, and that is your number one overreaction from week 1. Kirk Cousins will be one and done in Atlanta. All right, well, I'll wrap up the pod now here. Hope you guys enjoyed week 1 as much as I did. Football season is fully here. I can't wait for a full overreaction today from all the different shows. Listening to fan bases just go crazy about their team. Nothing better than Monday morning quarterbacking, which is kind of what I'm doing here this whole day on this podcast here. But try to be as balanced as I could with the takes today. It's just week 1. Not going to overreact too much to what I saw. Some teams put out some statements today. Some teams, need some work as well. Enjoy Monday Night Football later tonight. Niners, Jets. Excited about that one as well. Coming up, what you can look forward to this week. A bunch of NFL stuff we'll run through after Monday. Just news, different things of that nature. And then it is a massive UFC pay-per-view week. UFC 306 live at the Sphere. First ever sporting event at the Sphere. Don't know if it'll ever be done. The UFC, Dana White already said it'll never be done again, but we'll get into all that stuff later in the week. Sugar Sean O'Malley versus Merab Dvalishvili is your main event for later this weekend. But we'll talk UFC later this week. More NFL on Wednesday. Whole bunch of stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed the first 3 podcasts, kind of like the first week of podcasts, if you will. This will be the start of the first full week of Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Once again, just appreciate all you guys for reposting out there on social media, for following, for liking, for commenting, for subscribing. Means a whole bunch. Just trying to get this podcast off the ground and do something that I love, which is just talking ball and talking sports. Hope you guys at home are enjoying. I'm putting as much effort into it and as much time as I can, and as working late hours. But just like, comment, subscribe if you could. I'd appreciate it so much, and thank you guys again for joining me here today on the podcast. We'll be back again Wednesday. Tell your friends that P-Way's got a podcast and we're talking sports all the time. Thank you guys again for listening. Much love to all you guys out there. See you Wednesday.